It's been a little over a week since the 2020 election on November 3rd, and finally every U.S. Senate race has been called in some way, shape, or form. The Republicans will hold 50 seats at the bare minimum in the 117th United States Congress. However, with the projection that Kamala Harris will be the next vice president of the United States, replacing Mike Pence as the tie-breaking vote, those 50 seats do not constitute a majority. For the GOP to retain a majority in the Senate and avoid a Democratic trifecta in all three branches of government, they must win at least one of the Georgia runoffs set to take place on January 5th, 2021. On the flip side, if the Democrats win both of those races, they will reach 50 seats and a majority because of Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote. Of course, it won't be that simple, as there are plenty of moderates on both sides that could swing on any given bill. Susan Collins from Maine, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, and Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona are just a few of them. But for all official purposes, yes, a 50-50 split would result in a Democratic control of the Senate, along with the House of Representatives and, of course, the White House. I'll get into the specifics of those crucial runoffs in a bit, but first of all, why don't we reflect on the Senate map as a whole? It's obviously a disappointing result for the Democrats, no matter the results in Georgia. Governor Steve Bullock should have been more competitive in Montana based on favorability, fundraising, and polling data, but he lost by 10 points to incumbent Steve Daines. Teresa Greenfield as well should have unseated Joni Ernst in Iowa based on all known polling data, but she also lost by 6.6 points. Ultimately, Trump's performance in those two states, especially with how he was able to drive out the vote, was just too much for the Democratic hopefuls to overcome. Amy McGrath and Jamie Harrison both got blown out by two very unpopular Republican incumbent senators, Mitch McConnell in Kentucky and Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. Obviously, these races were long shots from the start, but for the hundreds of millions poured into both of their campaigns, 2 double-digit losses is just not good enough. It should honestly be considered a total waste of Democratic funds. Ultimately, if you lose by 1 point or 20 points, it doesn't matter. You still lost and that money is gone. But anyways, Democrats were most confident in their chances in Maine and North Carolina. Cal Cunningham was consistently outpolling incumbent Thom Tillis in North Carolina over the summer and even into October. Then, of course, came the extramarital affair and sexting scandal that may or may not have been what derailed his campaign. But as things stand right now, he's even running behind Joe Biden by 0.4%. That is not something anybody expected to happen, nor should it have happened. There is certainly a lot of blame to be placed on him there. But moving on, Maine definitely comes as the biggest surprise. Democrat Sarah Gideon led in every single poll that was conducted throughout the entire cycle. And that is not an exaggeration. She led in every single poll. And this is the biggest polling failure I have ever seen, and it isn't close. Not only did Susan Collins win, but she carried over 50% of the vote, meaning ranked choice voting did not even come into play. Where things stand right now, she has defeated Gideon by 7 points outright, despite her unpopularity and the national attention this race received. And I mean, rightfully so. This was seen by most as the most flippable state for the Democratic Party, not including Arizona or Colorado. It's honestly stunning and quite embarrassing to see how wrong absolutely everybody was here. However, speaking of Arizona and Colorado, yes, Mark Kelly and John Hickenlooper flipped those seats, but that was basically a given coming into election night. The other two races, though, that kind of went under the radar in terms of bad news for the Democrats, Michigan and New Mexico. Incumbent Gary Peters should not have won by just 1.6 points over John James, when he led by double digits in half of the polls conducted there, and by 5 to 8 points in the other. And then Ben Ray Lujan in New Mexico should not have defeated Mark Ronchetti by just 6 points in a state that voted for Joe Biden by over 10 points. Needless to say, the Georgia runoffs should not distract us from the fact that this was very close to a disaster for the DNC. However, they do present a scapegoat for Chuck Schumer and the DNC. They could quite possibly redeem their national failures in just one state early next year. We all knew going into election night that the three-way race in the special election in Georgia was headed to a runoff. The only question was whether incumbent Senator Kelly Loeffler or Congressman Doug Collins would be the Republican to face Democrat Reverend Raphael Warnock. And well, Loeffler beat Collins by a pretty convincing margin in the end, 6 points. However, the regular Senate election between Republican incumbent Senator David Perdue and Democrat Jon Ossoff mostly flew under the radar, but when it became clear that Joe Biden had a path to victory in the state, it also became clear that Perdue would not finish above 50%. And as it stands right now, he holds 49.7% of the vote to Ossoff's 48%. This suggests as well that there were a number of Perdue-Biden voters, hence why Perdue overperformed the president by over a percentage point in Georgia. A lot of money will be spent on all four campaigns by January. The only question is how much they can really spend in just under 2 months. My bet is still on a lot. After all, Georgia will be the epicenter of electoral politics over that time span. We already got our first head-to-head polls a few days ago, which had Loeffler 1 point ahead of Warnock and Perdue 4 points ahead of Ossoff. This data aligns with the consensus that Warnock has a much better chance against the unpopular Loeffler than Ossoff has against Perdue. My personal belief is that there will be a good amount of Warnock-Perdue voters, and the grassroots efforts of the Democratic coalition in Georgia could very well be enough to push Warnock over the edge, just like it did for Joe Biden, while Ossoff has a bigger hill to climb. But we have a long way to go and a lot of data to cover before that happens. Also, I won't be analyzing my presidential election predictions for a few days, as more ballots are still being tallied in a number of states like Alaska and New York, but I can say with confidence that I predicted 55 of 56 races correctly. That includes the 50 states, plus the District of Columbia, and the 5 congressional districts in Maine and Nebraska. So keep your eye on the channel over the next week, and make sure that you are subscribed down below so you don't miss it. I hope you all enjoyed this video though. If you did, please make sure to like it down below and check out more content from my channel here. Thank you all so much for watching, and tune in next time. EP out.